This episode of Seven Deadly Sins highlights three main plot points. Number one is obviously the setup for the oncoming threat of the Ten Commandments. We do get introductions to each of them. I guess the confessions for each of the characters in this episode, where it comes to, like, I guess Dianne, the biggest one, and King's obviously affection for Dianne, and now we kind of get clarification on that, so that's kind of cool. The third plot twist of the episode is Gowther's, I guess, his attitude towards wanting to have emotion or wanting to know what likes to have feelings in the heart. So he pretty much comes up with a spell to, I guess, erase all the memories of Gila, so he can actually feel what love is all about. So that's kind of messed up. So that's the three main plot points that were highlighted. So we start off, I guess, with the Ten Commandments, and I guess the interesting fact that we took upon this is, I guess, they're out of power because they didn't have enough blood from the goddess, or in this case Elizabeth. So that's kind of a plot point to, like, stall for the oncoming confrontation, which we know is going to come up.
Before I move on with this review, I just want to give a shout out to the opening that we got. The visuals look stunning. The music is catchy as all hell. I think this is on par, maybe even better than Limit Breaker X, the Dragon Ball Super opening. Let me know what you guys think down below. We do get some interesting reveals, or what we could expect from the Ten Commandments versus Seven Deadly Sins. We also get introduced to the Pleiades of Azura, the group that we got introduced to last week. Introduced to that entire group, so I'm assuming we're going to see what these guys can do. Also, the theme of the episode was actually pretty much, I guess, the romantic feelings expressed from Dianne and Elizabeth. Feel it's going to be returned from Meliodas to Elizabeth just because of the symbolism. We see them holding hands in the opening. Same thing with King and Dianne. They're in the same shot together. The opening, we see Droll the Patience taking on Merlin, so that could be an interesting matchup. We actually see Gula and Garland up against Dianne, so that's going to be an interesting match. 2-on-1. I kind of want to see team efforts, part of Seven Deadly Sins, what they can do as a team. Obviously, Zeldris versus Meliodas, that's obvious. We actually get to see Derry, the half-naked chick that we see is covered with Meliodas' curse marks, and she takes on Bond. So that kind of correlates with what I said in the previous review, that there's no reason to have King Bertula give out the warning about the new signs to all the Seven Deadly Sins, if that's not going to be a factor in this arc. But then we see a real interesting shot of somebody coming down, attacking Meliodas right at the end. That could be the Demon King that was referenced to in this episode, or could be something entirely different. We don't know. So I guess only manga fanatics are going to know that. Could this shot be also teasing another pairing with Merlin and Gowther, given what we had in this episode? That could be interesting too. I just found that kind of curious.
His attitude since last week's episode, the end, throughout this episode, was kind of like uncharacteristic of him. So he knows how much of a threat these guys are, so that's why he's deadly serious. So we actually go off with Bon and King, and I guess Jericho, because obviously it's funny because Bon actually mentions something about Dianne having feelings for King, and then it turns out to be the case, but he's actually trolling, saying, "Oh, just kidding." So they end up attacking us one another, which brings out Jericho. So I guess that's the stalker in the bushes from last week. It's funny because in the comments, somebody was like, "Oh, that's a girl that's stalking Bon anyway." So now we get clarification on that, so that's kind of cool. And her response when we saw the fog appear out of nowhere, just clinging to Bon like a scared little girlfriend would in a horror house movie, and Bon's expression like, "Stop clinging to me." I LOL so much after that. And her reason for clinging onto Bon was like, "Oh, this fog appeared out of nowhere," so I got kind of shook up. So yeah, of course it was.
Speaking of pairings, we actually go over to Gil Thunder and Company, and because you pretty much have Veronica say, Gil Thunder and Hauser, can you babysit Griama? If you look at that scene, you see Gil Thunder saying goodbye to Ellie, again more say goodbye to Veronica, but if you notice, Hauser has nobody to say goodbye to. And I laughed so much when I saw that shot of Hauser looking dejected. Somebody should get that soundtrack, Darkness My Old Friend, because they really needed it for this scene.
To find out the Fairy King Forest is actually not a myth. It's turning out it's still there. Obviously, King remembers it how it used to be, and boy, is he vilified and hated for the moment he steps foot back into the forest, because everybody was there. He abandoned the Fairy King Forest because of that, he was hated. People were chucking rocks at him. A very sad concept for King coming back. Then he sees his sister, obviously Elaine, and that's what he just goes. He can't handle it. It's like, yeah, I couldn't see Elaine's face with being like a traitor to them. So cut the bond, and he's pretty much like, yeah, I'm gonna bring Elaine back somehow. And if you notice in the opening, there is a shot of her still being alive. So I don't know if that's type of teasing what's eventually going to come, but we do know Bond and King are going to be part of the fight as well. Due to one of the fairies that turns out to be a friend of King in Hellbram. Turns out he can only be seen once he's wearing the helmet, and Bond couldn't see him because he's like, what are you talking about, you idiot? So that was kind of cool. The second plot point of the episode, obviously, we cut to, I guess, Elizabeth finding out that Meliodas is going on a trip. She goes to the bar to try and convince Meliodas to take her with her, and you know what Meliodas is doing. He's like trying to like be distant, and at the same time, he's like trying to, because at one point, it's like, yeah, he doesn't say anything, but then he just uplifts her skirt. So that was kind of funny. So no, I'm not acting weird, but then he can't tell what he's doing. He knows what kind of threats on the way, so he doesn't want to get Elizabeth mixed up in this. So, and after that, Elizabeth kind of like stuck on her feelings for Meliodas, and Dianne calls her out on that, which is surprising, but it's kind of explained that Dianne got her memories back of King, so that's kind of like why she's egging on Elizabeth to like, express her feelings for Meliodas, which we already knew, but that was kind of cool coming from Dianne. So like a cheerleader, probably for her best friend to like express herself. And then Diane's kind of like the same way. She got memories back of King, so obviously she's expressing her love for King. And then turns out to be true what Bond said. Oh, she does have feelings for you, because I ever heard her saying that while you took off from the bar. So I thought that. And then the third part of the episode is where we get Gowther, I guess, looking to take a magic stabilizer pill, or not taking it because he spat it back out when Merlin handed it. And he was like, yeah, I've got some things to do. In comes Meliodas, and we got an interesting conversation about Meliodas saying, give me back what you took from me 10 years ago. I can only assume it has something to do with his sealed powers. But then Merlin's like, yeah, this, whatever this is to the earthquake from last week, to the new signs. And he's like, yep, this is the 10 Commandments. They're on the way. And Merlin's expression is like, oh, okay, she's pissed. So she's obviously got beef with these guys. She's like, oh, I got carried away. I let my emotions get the better of me. And then we come to find out Hawkins also swallowed the pill that was meant for Gowther, so that was funny. So he was also taken out of the picture. He was knocked out anyway.
Found interesting was Gowther's ability when he's knocking out everybody at the end with the berry heat unleashed on everybody, knocking everybody out in a 300-mile radius, which knocks everybody out under the magic level below 400, which, I mean, technically speaking, that would mean that the only one capable of not being knocked out is pretty much Merlin at this point, because she's way above 400, and Meliodas is 300, which may back up what I say, unless it turns out he's way above that. What it seems like the magic scatter we see for Hawk is not accurate to the level of each of the 7 deadly sins, because I still think that's way too low. But let me know what you guys think down below.
And it's kind of revealed that Gowther actually replaced Gil's memories, I guess, with what he saw with Bond and Meliodas fighting. I guess it placed it with being her fiance, which is kind of messed up, and forgetting everything about her brother. So I thought, wow, that's messed up, just because Gowther wanted to realize what real emotion was in her heart. So, and then Dianne gets pissed about that. It's like, you can't erase somebody's memories like that. That's not cool. So we get a fight between Gowther and Dianne, and that's pretty much how the episode ends. We actually got a statement made by Zeldris that they don't have enough power to go on an attack because they didn't have enough, I guess, blood or power to be resurrected from the goddess, aka Elizabeth. So now they're going to Edinburgh, I guess the village in the east. So that's going to be that plot point. I wonder if that's going to be close to where Bond and King is. We know from the opening they get involved as well. And like I said, there's no point in having the flashback with Bartola, given the rundown of the new signs coming to Meliodas and the other 7 deadly sins, having them all there if it's not going to reference them in some way, shape, or form. So I really enjoyed this episode. And obviously now we've got Gowther versus Dianne, so that's going to be interesting. But like I said early on in this review because of the opening. They all find together, so I think things will be resolved by next week. That's it from me. Thanks so much for watching. Like this review if you did. Appreciate that. Subscribe to the channel for more 7 Deadly Sins. Catch you guys later. Bye.